Have you ever wondered why you can scroll on your phone for hours without getting tired, but the moment you open a book, your mind wants to escape within 10 minutes? You're not lazy. You're not unintelligent. The truth is, you've been studying in a way that goes against how your brain is actually designed to work. And that's exactly why this video isn't about trying harder, iron discipline, or empty motivation. This video is about science, explained clearly, engagingly, and in a way you can use immediately. In this video, you'll discover what's really happening inside your brain when you study, why motivation always disappears at the worst possible moment, and how to turn studying from a painful obligation into something your brain is naturally drawn to. You don't need to change who you are. You just need to change how you work with your brain. If you want to learn more effectively, grow yourself sustainably, and stop feeling exhausted from constantly trying but not progressing, this video is for you. Stay until the end, because the final part reveals the piece most people miss. Yet it's the one that determines whether you actually move forward. And if you want to continue this journey of understanding your brain, mastering yourself, and living smarter every day, subscribe to the channel and stay with us. This journey has just begun. The core problem is not laziness or a lack of willpower. The real issue is that our brains have been quietly hijacked. From the moment you wake up until you fall asleep, your brain is constantly bombarded with small but relentless stimuli. Short videos, notifications, messages, endless scrolling, each swipe lasts only seconds, yet it delivers an immediate reward: novelty, curiosity, entertainment. Your brain learns this pattern quickly and absorbs a dangerous rule: pleasure without effort. Over time, the brain stimulation threshold rises so high that slower activities like reading, studying, or deep thinking start to feel dull or even uncomfortable, not because they lack value, but because they can no longer compete on the brain's pleasure scale. That's why you can scroll for 3 hours without feeling tired, but after just 15 minutes of studying, your mind feels heavy, restless, and eager to quit. Your brain is not betraying you. It's simply doing what it evolved to do, choosing the path that requires the least effort for the greatest reward. The problem is that in the modern world, this path no longer leads to knowledge, skills, or long-term growth. It leads to distraction and delay. If you don't understand this mechanism, you'll keep blaming yourself, pushing harder, and feeling frustrated, while the real battle is happening inside your dopamine system. Only by confronting this reality can you begin to take back control of how you learn. At a scientific level, what's happening is far more subtle than simple distraction. When the brain is repeatedly flooded with high-intensity, instant rewards, the dopamine system adapts by raising the baseline dopamine level to maintain balance. It's like ears that get used to loud music. Normal volume suddenly feels flat and dull. The same happens in the brain. Once the baseline is elevated, activities that require effort, such as reading a long chapter, following a lecture, or engaging in deep thinking, no longer generate a strong enough reward signal to be labeled as worth doing. They aren't painful, but they're not stimulating enough to hold your attention. What follows is restlessness, mental emptiness, and a constant urge to switch to something faster and easier. The key point is that dopamine is not merely a feel-good chemical. It is a behavior-guiding signal. It determines what deserves your attention, what feels worth pursuing, and what you're likely to repeat. When instant stimulation dominates, the brain begins to tag delayed reward activities as low value, even if they offer significant long-term benefits. This explains why you intellectually know studying matters, yet you don't feel motivated to do it. The disconnect between logic and drive isn't a personal flaw, it's the result of a miscalibrated reward system. If this state persists, the brain grows increasingly impatient with anything that takes time. Deep focus weakens, satisfaction from slow progress fades, and learning turns into a psychological burden. Understanding this cause is crucial, because you cannot fix a habit with sheer willpower, when the root of the problem lies in how dopamine is shaping your daily choices. The good news is that your dopamine system isn't broken. It's simply running based on what you've trained it to expect. And that means you can absolutely reprogram your reward system to make your brain more engaged with learning. The solution comes in 2 straightforward steps, which are incredibly effective when practiced consistently. The first step is to lower your dopamine baseline through a daily light detox. You don't need to throw your phone away or retreat into the mountains like a monk. Just set aside 15 minutes a day without any devices, music, or digital entertainment. Give your brain space, free from artificial stimulation. You can take a slow walk, stare out the window, or simply sit in silence and let your thoughts wander. At first, it will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will crave dopamine and beg for stimulation. But after a few days, something incredible happens. Simple moments become more enjoyable, patience returns, and your brain cools down, becoming more willing to engage with slower tasks like studying. The second step is to increase dopamine during the act of learning itself. To do this, you must befriend how your brain works. It loves rewards, completion, and a sense of control. So instead of forcing yourself to study for 3 hours straight and blaming yourself for zoning out, break your material into tiny, achievable chunks. After finishing each one, mark it with a star, underline something, or nod to yourself small actions that trigger dopamine and give you momentum to continue. You can also use the Pomodoro technique, 25 minutes of study, followed by 5 minutes of rest. This turns learning into a finite game. Your brain sees the end and stays engaged. Additionally, say concepts out loud, as if teaching someone else. This not only deepens retention but also activates language and long-term memory areas of the brain. Using colored pens for note-taking is another way to stimulate the brain. Combining hand movement, color, and visuals strengthens connections. And most importantly, relate what you're learning to things you care about. Studying biology? Think about how your body responds during workouts. Learning economics? Connect it to why your favorite meal just got more expensive. When knowledge is linked to personal emotion, dopamine is released more powerfully because now you're not learning passively. You're learning with emotion and purpose. The key mindset for effective studying isn't about forcing yourself to learn. It's about activating your brain's natural curiosity. Humans are born with an innate desire to understand the world. That's why children can ask why 100 times a day without getting bored. But as we grow up, the education system and the pressure of grades unintentionally turn learning into an obligation, a race for approval instead of a journey of discovery. That's when the brain begins to lose its connection between knowledge and pleasure. If you keep studying only to please others, get high marks, or avoid punishment, no matter how disciplined you are, learning will always feel like a psychological burden and your brain will try to escape it. On the other hand, when you study out of genuine curiosity because you want to understand how the world works, to explore connections you've never considered, dopamine is released during the learning process, not just at the end. Your brain feels nourished rather than drained. And when learning is linked to comfort, excitement, and the freedom to explore, it becomes a natural habit, not something forced. You'll start opening books not because you have to, but because you want to. You'll learn because it's interesting, useful, and it makes you feel like you're growing, and that is the most sustainable form of motivation, beyond any grade. Learning, when tied to positive emotion, doesn't just make you smarter, it helps you fall back in love with the process of learning that pressure once stole from you. And the most exciting part is, you don't have to wait until next year to see results. If you truly apply the 2 simple steps, a daily gentle dopamine detox, and making studying a rewarding experience, then within just 2 weeks, you'll start noticing a shift. The restlessness during study sessions begins to fade. Your brain no longer puts up a fight every time you open a book. Small actions like underlining, finishing a tiny section, or saying a concept out loud suddenly feel strangely enjoyable. And by the 3rd week, you might realize you no longer feel like studying is a battle. After 1 month, something remarkable happens. During idle moments, instead of mindlessly picking up your phone to scroll as usual, you begin to feel a sense of choice. And sometimes this may sound crazy, you actually want to study. Not because someone told you to, but because your brain has been rewired to find pleasure in progress. Studying is no longer a duty, but a part of your new identity. Someone who learns for self-growth, for curiosity, for themselves. And once you reach that state, studying won't be hard anymore. It will become a natural, effortless, and deeply inspiring habit. If you've watched the video up to this point, it means you're not just trying to study better. You truly want to understand how your brain works to live smarter, more intentionally, and more effectively every day. Learning isn't a burden when done right and in rhythm with your biology. It becomes a superpower. Your brain isn't broken, it's simply waiting for you to take the lead again. If this content resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. Here we share science-backed strategies for learning, psychology, and self-growth in a way that's fun, simple, and genuinely inspiring. Let's build a community of people who love learning not for grades, but for themselves. You're not studying alone. We're right here with you on this journey.